I'm trying with all my might to make this video. Prayers appreciated. I think it surpasses time. So this will be at the beginning. Now you're seeing the video, right? I got people playing trumpets and driving race cars, like loud little race. And it's like my environment, the realm in which that I am interacting with is warring against me, because I think that the concept of this is so important. So this is going to be on the series of my best attempt to explain to you the way that I see the world. Whether you see it the way that I do is sort of irrelevant, but I think that if you've followed my channel and you know we've interacted or not, but if you've been interested in the things that I've talked about, those things have led me to develop this concept in my mind, or just the way that I look at the world, the way that I think, and it's sort of the realm thing. Not in the sense that you can move throughout into different realms, but you know, when the Bible talks about calamity coming on people, it's a vastly different place than the peace that we know where we're at. We're taught to think linearly, like this happened, then it brings war, but I really think that we're moved to a different place. I find that whenever calamity comes on some, and the way that we're disconnected in the world today from others, and understand, you know, you could be standing right next to somebody and they're in a completely different place than we're in. So it's not so much as in like we're in these different realms and it's another world. So to start off, the definition of universe, I mean, I could read it. You know that obviously Google is going to say all existing matter and space considered as a whole, the cosmos. The universe is believed to be at least 10 billion light years in diameter, but that's a measure of time, and contains a vast number of galaxies. It has been expanding since its creation in the Big Bang about 13 billion years ago. If you were to Google the definition of a universe, you would see that uni, meaning one, and verse or versus means turned in Latin, I believe. And as I was thinking about this and sort of just meditating on it, God was revealing to me the concept of where a universe comes from. Now, we're taught that a universe is vastly expanding into nothingness, right? It's just growing bigger, and there's all these different worlds. And it got me to thinking, regardless of which shape you think the earth is, or if space is real or not, that entire concept as a counterfeit comes from an omnipresent God who can see through the eyes and know the thoughts and the feelings of those that are completely naked before him. And that he sees through each individual life, all the way down to the bug that crawls, you know. I mean, I don't know if bugs have different personalities, but you see what I'm saying. It's knowing the thoughts of the heart and the things that go on within ourselves that no one else knows about. It's a completely different universe to know the intricate detail of everyone. And God's omnipresent. You know, he's everywhere. And there are people that we interact with daily that have vastly different lives than we do. I mean, they live in a different world. If you've listened to one or two of the videos I've made, I've talked about really creepy things going on where people were interacting with something that I couldn't see. I couldn't tell what it was. And I really think that the idea of the universe, the way that it's told to us in you know, from the world, comes from the way that God sees through the eyes of each one of us. You know, we're multiplying. There's more and more of us every day. We all see the world very differently, but much in the same way. And there are things that happen that even if we exhaustively try to explain to others, they don't grasp it the way at least that we do. They develop a concept of it, and they understand the idea of what we're trying to say, but they don't see it the way that we've seen it because they don't have the same experiences. But to me, the concept of a universe comes from an omnipresent God knowing the thoughts and feelings of everything in existence. Now, throughout the book of Daniel, you'll notice many times Daniel 2:2. Then the king commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dreams. And throughout, the king answered and said to the Chaldeans, a word from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb. The Chaldeans had a special ability that we can't find on Wikipedia. They had an understanding of, interpretation that's open to interpretation. But what I'm saying is that in the book of Daniel, the Chaldeans were held to a certain esteem, right next to the magicians, the enchanters, and I lost my space. There's a lot of stuff going on. So my point, you can go on Wikipedia or other more informal web pages and learn who the Chaldeans were, where they come from, where they settled, that they were a warlike people that were sort of grafted into Babylon. But my point that I don't think a lot of people really dwell on is that the king had a dream. And just as the sorcerers and the enchanters, the Chaldeans were expected to peer into something, to interpret it. Now, I know that my videos are peppered with really strange oddities of things, of people interacting with other stuff. And that's where I'm trying to get at with this concept of a realm. Not so much that we exist in different ones, just that the way that you see the world could be completely different than I. I also think that some of these people, the things that they're interacting with, that means that there's a veil that's not there, that I would consider to be God's protection. Every time that they were interacting with it, it didn't have my best interest in mind, neither did they. They were happy that it was there, and that they seemed to think that some sort of calamity was about to happen to me, and probably should have. If it weren't for God's grace, I would be gone. But I've seen that way too much to deny it, and could care less whether you believe me or not, because that's been the past few years. But the reason I use the Chaldeans as an example is because I think that they're a people with a special ability. We live in, most of my viewers and I live in America, where people come from all sorts of different backgrounds. I also don't think that it's a lineage thing, because of the experiences that I've had within my own, people that I've been related to. If that were the case, then there's some stuff that I'm not a part of for some reason, that I'm not one of them. So getting back to the Chaldeans, these people, they were expected to see into something. It was common knowledge that they had access to a realm in which other people didn't, right next to the enchanters and the magicians. And it was only Daniel, with a plan from the Father, that could interpret these dreams. But I keep seeing that over and over, talking about the Chaldeans. They're not the important thing to focus on here. What I'm saying is that I think that there are those that interact with us that have access to another realm. I spoke with a brother the other day, and he was talking about meeting a friend, just to kind of fellowship with him at a coffee shop, and someone didn't really sort of manifest, but as they were walking by, they had this look upon them. And it was just out of the blue, someone he didn't know. It's common knowledge. Some people would call it like a manifestation of a demon within. And I think that that's a part of it. But I also see in my own life, and the reason I've talked about being so lonely is because the people that I go to work with, they just hate me. I mean that's the feeling that I get from them, and the look on their face. It's half of you're a joke, and the other half of we don't want anything to do with you. We don't like you. And I think that comes from somewhere. But the other half of it is I also see that whatever these things were that these people were interacting with, from the dark side, the dark shadow, it they also seem to be imprisoned by it, it's something that will reward them with worldly things if they can lead someone into sin, such as you have to give yourself away, stepping out of the covenant with the Father because of your own selfish sin, and they have access to you. And it'll reward them for that, but it's also like if they don't get it right, like there's something that it almost seems like life or death. And I take it back to that quote from the song, from Chevelle: "Hold on to chance, lest we bleed ourselves, and save for the Pats or Patsy. They're the loneliest." And music speaks to me. I don't know if you'll get that one, but it's being sung about right in our face. There's esoteric knowledge in songs. You know, last year a person died. And here, in this neighborhood. I got home from work. There's cops flying down the road. And I later met the person's brother who passed away. And he told me that his brother was found hanging in a tree. And so I thought that he'd hung himself. And then later I found out that he was running from something. He was on drugs, and his leg got hung up in a tree. And it was like a V-shaped tree. His leg got hung up in it at the back of his knee, and he hung upside down. And he was hurt pretty bad. There was a barbed wire fence next to him, which cut his stomach open. A long story short, I didn't relate, but after it was explained to me how the person had died, and it really didn't make sense that just because he was hanging upside down, he passed away. What they were describing to me was something on a tarot card called the Hanged Man. The exact same way that they said that he was hanging. And I think that has something to do with another realm, with a sacrifice being done right in front of our face. But you can't put it together because, oh, he just died, he was on drugs, look in the other direction. I can't prove it to you. But what I'm saying is that there are things going on around us, and the reason that there are many of us labeled as fools is because we don't pick up on it. It can be placed right in front of us, and we don't put it together. And so maybe that seems like it's unrelated, but I honestly think that something happened with that person. You don't just die from getting your leg caught in a tree, especially on a stimulant. It doesn't work like that. Is it possible? Yes. But then why was he found hanging in the exact same way that is on a tarot card? Should you look up the meaning of the tarot card? No, because then you're getting into studying into things. We're to focus on the things of Christ. But when a person comes to me to tell me detailed information about a person that died like that, and they seem to have already revealed to me that they've had access to hidden information in my life that happened long before I ever met them, I'm just saying that there's a connection, and I don't know. I don't really like the place that I'm living, but I'm here for a season and a time. I hope you're able to make the connection that I'm trying to put there, but I'm not sure that you can. It just sounds like a ramble. The point that I'm making is that there was a group of people that had knowledge of something, that had an understanding, an outlook on the world, whatever you want to call it, much like the sorcerers and the enchanters. And they're a major part in some of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, but they can't figure it out. And I think that we're still around some of those same people. And we around Chaldeans? Probably not. But the viewpoint that I would like you to see in the world, based on some of the same experiences that I've had with people interacting with something different, is that there are those that have a worldview unlike anything that we were ever taught to think about. And they seem to be afraid to discuss things about Jesus, or if they do, it's like, well, I mean, if you believe in that sort of thing, it's always like that. It's never, discussing the love of Christ, or the fruit of Christ, if they are willing to discuss it, coming from them. I'm not judging them or saying that they can't be saved. But it's almost don't take my name in vain. Don't carry the burden of my name. And I feel there's something grinding inside me when someone tells me something, but it doesn't line up. And so I'm not judging them. God bless them. I pray for them, but that seems to be my environment. And I'm trying to use my environment to explain to you how I see the world. My videos are peppered with stories of things that didn't add up and people interacting with something else. And I think that we are in vastly different realms, so to speak, a vastly different universe. And it is one universe because it's a world. But that we can't even understand that there are others that see things that go right past us. At the end of the book of Daniel, it talks about knowledge will increase and people will go to and fro. And for the past 4 years, there seemed to be people with a very well-knit knowledge of my life. And it doesn't matter where I go, if I've ever been there before or not. The knowledge of who they're speaking to them, seems to have increased. I met a neighbor the other day. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Shaking hands with him. Stay light. My dogs are playing, all that. And they just got more and more uncomfortable, just looking at me as if they were downloading information right in front of me. The more that they didn't like me. And I think if that comes from somewhere and they're not willing to talk about Christ, then it's going to come from a place that wants to paint me in the worst possible way. I am a sinner, and I've made some really, really bad decisions in my life. But to see the look on that person's face, just when you're trying to, hey, it's nice to meet you, and I want a sense of community. What I would like you to get from this is that there are people that interact with things that we can't see. What to do with them? Love them anyway. I think, I believe wholeheartedly through my own experiences that there are people around us that are interacting with other worlds, so to speak, entities. There are things that have happened and it hasn't changed. And I was once accepted in the world. I made a video that I guess I'll include in this about a time once past whenever I was fully accepted in the world and had a ton of friends and looked great and looked happy, but it was leading me into destruction. And it was only after I wasn't destroyed, after I didn't die when I overdosed on drugs, after I didn't die when I crushed my face, after I didn't die when I got really sick, really, really sick, almost septic, and the many other times that I should have passed away. Then my world seemed to change, and people started interacting with something belligerently to try and get it to manifest, to reach, like it was going to reach out. And it's only by the grace of God that I'm still here. I know that I'm not anything special. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about the tribe of is it Judah, who's the one who sins like far surpassed the other. And I'm not saying that I'm a Judean. I'm only saying I just think about the mistakes that I've made, and I wonder why. God, He still loves me. That's an amazing, amazing love. I'm doing the best that I know how to try and explain the things that when I speak to God in private, and the things that I think about when I interact with others. It's a constant thing, and not that I'm trying to push it on society, but I think that it's relevant, and it's at least something to be considered, so that I don't know. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say from a biblical standpoint, that this could be the way that the world is, at least for me, even if it's not for you, and God bless you if it isn't. Yeah. So anyway, God bless. Have a good night.
All guiding me like a beast to some blood, and I can't get enough. I'm losing control, my body, my soul are slowly fading away, but I'm ready now to feel the power of change. I'm my mother's child, scared in between what I hate and what I need. Savior and enemy are both trying to take my soul, and I can't hide no more. Stumble out into the light, raise my fists up to fight, then I catch your eyes so full of love. Lord, what have I done? I cry at your feet, wounded for me and all of the monsters and men, but here